broadcasting from my basement. So we're going to try a couple of different things. This is the first lecture that you should be watching. This is for Monday, and that would be March 16th. So here we go. If you start to look at the PowerPoint slides that I've done for today's lecture, we're going to talk more about structs. And now, structs are a building block, they're a container. And those structs allow us to put things into the container that we need, or that is important for us. So if you think about it, you have a box, and that box has a name. We looked at a box that had the name of person, okay? Now today, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this box and I'm going to expand upon it just a little bit. And what I'm looking at is doing something that we call a linked list. And so you've got some slides that I've already showed you and that I've posted that have linked lists in them. Okay, a linked list is a pretty simple idea. There's some application data, whatever that data is in here, and then there's a link that takes you to the next item in the list. And that link takes you to something that's formatted exactly the same. Okay? And these are of the same type. And in this case, we're going to call these, and I've got to write larger because this is low resolution video. These are both of type linked list node. Okay? And so we're going to create that. We're going to run a couple of example programs here to show you that. Okay? Now, you should start the PowerPoint slides now, and we'll start talking about what's in the PowerPoint slide. So you notice the first one is labeled COVID-19 lectures. All of these I'm going to post on Moodle are going to have some name like COVID-19 lecture number 1, number 2. We're going to be doing this for several weeks, and so we really have to stay organized and stay engaged in order to make sure that we do what we need to do. Okay? So, if at some point you don't understand something, or at some point you're like, what the heck was that? What you really want to do is stop, pause the video, go back, look at what was being said or what was being done. Okay? That a chance to rewind and replay the lecture is something you don't get in class. This is actually an advantage of having these lectures video recorded. Okay? Now, I'll start with a little bit of COVID data just like we did last week during our lectures. So there's a lot more to social distancing than just staying 6 feet away. Don't gather in groups, okay? This is the thing, right? You don't want to transmit. Community transmission or community infection is what we're trying to limit. The reason we're trying to limit this is because we don't want to spike above the capacity of our hospitals. That's what Italy did, and they're still in bad shape. Okay? So that's why we're canceling all sorts of in-person and group activities. That's why we're going to online lectures. Now, on a personal note, an initial study of people diagnosed with COVID-19 and confirmed included about 55,000 people. This initial study, they broke them down by what's called comorbidity, which are confounding factors or extra factors. The highest factor, as far as death rate was concerned, was those people in that 5,500 who had cardiovascular disease. And those people in the 5,500 that had cardiovascular disease died at 13 times, if I remember correctly, the rate of the average in that group. Diabetics were second. In fact, diabetics died at a rate, so all the diabetics in this big group, you know, you got the big group, you go down to just the diabetics, you look at the death rate in there, and the death rate in there was 9.2%, i.e. 1 out of every 10 diabetics that contracted corona in the first month died. I'm a diabetic. That's why I'm here in my basement and not on campus, just so we understand. Okay. Now these containers, let's go on with the topic at hand, C++. These containers in C++, these structs, are primitive. Okay. All they contain are data members. And so we're going to start using the terminology data member versus functional members. Data members are things that are actually holding data. And so the only thing in these structs are data members. You can't have anything other than just data. When we get to classes, they'll include functional members, i.e. they'll include code that goes along with the data. Now, all structs are defined the same way. They have a keyword. They start with a keyword called struct. So, let's take a look at that. Okay, so you get the keyword struct. And then you get a name. And the name is something you pick. In this case, I'm going to pick linked list node. And we've talked a little bit about linked lists, but we're going to take a deeper dive into what that linked list node actually is. Okay? Now, inside, we can put in data members. That is, things that look like variables, things that are defined very similar to variables, and they'll be pieces of the container that can hold information. So for instance, we'll have an int ID, okay? And then I might have a double called readings. Whoop. Called readings. And I'm going to make that an array, and I'm going to have it, actually, I want to make this generic. I don't want magic numbers in there, so I'm going to say max readings. Again, just getting used to lecturing, writing on a whiteboard, which I haven't done in years. And then a semicolon out here to end it. Okay, so we've got an array. I'm going to add a couple more doubles. And let me make sure that that's exactly what I want, because I've already written this code and it's on my laptop. So, where are we? Sensor. Yep, those are doubles. And so I just have lat and lon, okay? That's going to be latitude and longitude. And so what we've got here is actually for sensor network nodes. I've done some sensor network research, so I usually pull my programs from work that I've done in the past or things that I find interesting. So I've got a sensor ID, and this might be an ID for the network. I have a double, which is the last 5 readings. So we're going to have a sliding window. We're going to think about this as, what are the last 5 readings from this sensor? It might be temperature, it might be wave height, it might be wind speed, it might be light. Who knows? Who cares? Nobody cares. I have a latitude and a longitude. That is the location of the sensor out in the world. So maybe we go through the woods and we're leaving these sensors here, there, everywhere. Okay? But we don't know how many sensors there are going to be. This isn't something that we can decide ahead of time. oh, I'm only going to have 6 sensors. Well, over time that's going to scale, and over time there's probably going to be more than any guess you have. So we're going to store this in a linked list. And the linked list part of this is a pointer. The pointer, okay, is the thing that's going to make the links. I draw them as arrows in the diagram. Those arrows are essentially addresses, memory addresses. And so I need something that can hold a memory address, but what does it need to point to? It needs to point to one of these things. And so I can already use this as a type right here, inside of the same struct that I'm defining. So I can use this even though I haven't completely defined it yet. And the only way that you want to use this inside of itself is as a pointer. So we're going to do star next. That's a pointer to the next node. It's just an address. Its type is one of these containers, and it's going to store the address of the next one in line. And then we shut that off. Okay? And now I'm going to take just a little break to make sure that the video that I'm recording is actually recording well.